Oh, snap. I think it's another brief moment in time when we get to see the change of the tides. The shifted, twisted bit technology showcasing the little bits of safety, while the quick trips are surely randomly sparking the photons around me. Let the light flow from the heat, yo. When the photons ignite, highlighting, yo, then you know it's that time when we force a change in tides. A little bit lined with something in us. It's almost like we something else, autonomous, or maybe perhaps it's that missing piece you needin'. Perhaps it's that simple message you searching. Perhaps it's just a different time framing us for the next adventure in the mainframe. Getting excited, so are the photons. Don't laminate so we can change the coupon. Let me raise the hash rate, submit the coupon fake, and reduce the rate while we mine our major bags. Crypto technology like cryptographic money will hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter cause it's time for 3D changes perspectives. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hey yo, welcome everybody to the show. It is me, 3D, and I'm here, of course, to change your perspective about something today. Now, I do want to welcome you guys, everybody, to the show. It is a little bit different. I think the last time I wasn't moving, right? This time there's some other things a little bit off. It's a little bit odd. So we are actually coming to you from Linux. That's right. We are actually fully on Linux. This is a VTuber model running completely for free on Linux. This is a little bit still getting everything situated and figured out, because it's just not so easy on Linux. But I play life on hard, play everything on hard. So we're gonna go ahead and do today's episode. I hope you guys are prepared. Sorry for all the any inconveniences we might have along the way. Well, please allow me to tell you now. Yeah, we'll get it fixed. We'll have it better. Probably by the next episode, more stuff will be ready. In the episode after that, probably everything will be back to the way it pretty should much be. All right. So let's get into today's episode. You saw the title. We're talking about Knots versus Core 30. That's right, Knots versus Core 30. So today I want to peek into this Core 30 versus Knots debacle situation and what it really means to the chain of Bitcoin technologically. Because there is a difference, just not technologically. There isn't even close to how technologically different BTC to BCH split was. So we are going to look into the tech and perspective of both sides before I drop you into perspective that I think very few Bitcoiners even have right now. Okay, so before we go any further, I want to thank the partnerships and sponsorships. So first off, I want to thank DeOrganized for teaming up with Bitcoin Live Digital Broadcasting DB, because Bitcoin Live DB and DeOrganized is a powerhouse combo. I see new heights for both organizations now, and if you haven't checked out any of DeOrganized early morning broadcasts for stacks and other topics that seem to be taking off with every single morning, well, you can find them on Twitter and just about anywhere you're watching this right here. So they're on tons of different platforms for you. And now I do want to thank today's sponsor. That's right, we actually have one of those. I want to thank Shieldfolio for sponsoring today's episode from within a quantum bit, as well as Bitcoin Live DB Network. Now, if you haven't seen a Shieldfolio, they're like a little black book. They're made from stone paper. They're fade resistant, tear resistant, and even water resistant. So you know the info and secrets you store in your Shieldfolio will last and survive whatever you throw at it. It is personally a Shieldfolio that I actually have. I use it for my website, info, contacts, crypto keys, among other things. They're like little black books that are pocket-sized, ready to be by your side, regardless of your adventure in real life or online. And I actually do have one of these. I absolutely do love them. They're the old school method of anything you don't want on the internet, anything you don't want on your computer, you put it in this little book. And it is the way to go. So let's go ahead and roll in with the roll-ins and get rolled on in. All right. Awesome. Thank you again, Shield Filio, for sponsoring today's episode. Now, before we go any further, let's go ahead and make this happen, Captain. Alright, so I want to welcome you all to the photon of the greater fourth dimension quantum machine. So what we're going to do, the way we do this here, is we'll be at a site, we'll be at a place. Oh, you know what? I'm actually missing one of my links. That's fine. We'll just go with the flow because here we are, yo. Alright. No, you don't. You don't see it. Hold on one second. I really thought I had this one fixed. Alright. Okay. Hold on a second. It did not grab the QR. It's supposed to. So you guys are going to see a little bit of live editing. Just don't pay attention to the stuff on the side. There's nothing there. Nothing. Nope. 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 You see nothing? Nothing. Alright, okay. Okay. Just pretend it's not there. Alright. Okay. We're just gonna get rid of this part too. Let's make this as big as we can for you. Give you as much of that view that you want to see. Alright, right. Okay. Just tidy that up a little bit. Alright. That should definitely look better. Whoa. Now we're talking. Sorry, everybody. I do apologize. But if I click it now, hey, we got a QR. All right. So, basically, as we go throughout all the episode, we will be putting up this little QR. So you just go ahead and scan that QR with your phone, OCR, any kind of reader, and that will allow you to just basically be able to keep up, catch up, and follow along throughout the episode. So anywhere I go, I'm going to put this QR up that allows you to find it later. Also, in case you're curious, no matter where you're at, excuse me, anywhere you were at, you can just go to YouTube and also catch the links in the description after the episode. So, it doesn't matter where you watch it from, you can always catch it. Okay. So today's free pre-search query, you're already looking at it. It is BTC Core 30 versus knots. Why? Because if you just type in Core 30 versus knots, that's actually a workout routine difference thing that's gonna get you a little bit confused. Okay, so, like always, I did not use this query in today's episode research, but that doesn't mean we won't have overlapping links. If anything about today's episode interests you, this free pre-search query should help you find more, and it definitely will help you. Just replay after the episode, after today's live stream, and use the QR to find it. Jump in with your phone and start this rabbit hole. Alright, okay. We're going to go to the next spot. So, fundamentally, oh wait, it says, I didn't read my sign. It says catch-up deeds. Fundamentally, there are two groups of peoples. Some that want to filter stuff they don't wish to see on their node, and a group of peoples wanting to filter kinda across the network. Honestly, it isn't much deeper than that. And we are literally looking at yet another Hero Fantasy public play with Bitcoin. The technology, by the way. So, in perspective, I hope to pass along to you is 99% of this fight of knots versus 30 is strictly a parasocial relationship gone a little bit too far in the public niche within the niche Bitcoin community. Or communities, because there's more than one. Alright, so I'm going to start with filters history and show how both the knots and core are really far behind the tech, because the filter tech isn't even what people think. Alright, okay. Alright. Now I'm back on track. We are here. Let me get you this one. You already know what's coming on. So, I'm not going to read the questions on here that's asked, nor go through the meeting notes. Like, you can go through all that yourself. Because I think it's just an IRC chat. But, basically, let me see. Can we make this big? Yes, I can. There we go. Alright. So I'm going to read the notes on here. And that's what we're going to really talk about. So BIP 158 defines compact block filters. Compact representations of data in a block. It's not the data in the block, it's representations. Compact block filters use the Golem Rice coding for compression and give a problematic answer to the question, does the block contain X? There is no false negatives if X is in the block. The answer will be a no. But there are false positives, so if the X is not in the block, there may be a yes. The false positive rate is a parameter of the filter construction. So BIP 158 also specifies one filter type called basic block filters, which include the script pub keys of the UTXO spent in the block. The script pub keys of all the UTXOs created in the block. So that's two things. Now, this PR implemented a compact block filter in Bitcoin Core, and that PR, the second one, added a new index, which stores the compact block filters for blocks that have been validated. When rescanning, the wallet wants to know whether there are any transactions that send outputs to addresses it owns or spins those outputs. Currently, rescan is done by iterating through every transaction in the block from the rescan start point, which rescanning the entire chain can take half an hour or more. And I think as of like recently, it's like closer to an hour and 15 minutes for most machines. So this PR changes the rescan logic to first compute a Golem coded set of wallet scripts. And then this test matches against all blocks in the blockchain. Only blocks with a positive match need to even be fetched and scanned by the wallet at all. This functionality can be used in a compact filter index, which has been constructed by the node, using this special argument. Alright. So in late 2019, people were asking questions about this BIP 158. Okay? That was placed in and how it works in case it was censorable to the chain. That's what the fear really straight up was. People heard filters and thought this will create censorship on chain, but even from this, you see filters just allow you to kind of poke at a hash in a way to find out the probability of something being true. Okay, so we see this whole thing was done, it says not here, November 6, 2019. I'm going to go ahead and give you this QR code again before we move on. Alright, so we have now this QR. And one of the reasons why the QR is so small is I can't get the sizing right on the desktop for the Linux yet. I'll get that figured out though eventually. I'm sorry though. So here is the original bit pool, and even here in early 2019, filters were to perform quick scans for data checks within each block. And it could make non-financial rescans faster, allowing for faster verifications and other things outside of the chain. That's kind of the principle here. So, I do this with many topics that align with hobbies of mine. So here is actually a project I personally worked on. I heard of filters and literally didn't care until just this year. I probably heard about them in 2020. So only 5 or 6 months ago did I actually take the time out to learn about them. How to properly filter a hash for data without directly opening it. I was, of course, attempting to shift data out without breaking a hash or knowing the actual key to do so. I did eventually find out that there were actually a ton, like 4 to 8 various different encryption types that were designed around this ideal of poking the hash that really was just to get some info, right? But not to remove it or actually see any info from within the hash. Similar to SHA-3, the sponge thing, but with positive practical use maybe. After a couple of months, I came up with a way to use Bloom filter checks Bloom filters to check transactions, and a method of taking multiple points of data from within a block and reducing it to a fairly small hash in comparison. Like in, for example, they were using like in the actual filters for Bitcoin, it is transactional hash. Well, it's your pub key UTXOs, right? It's a whole bunch of them. So we're just taking these bits of information within. They're pairing 2 bits of information together, and then testing it against the block. Here, this thing in front of you, it does multiple points and does the same thing. Then it tests it against another hash. So we can poke at the hash and get information of ones or zeros. Then we can give these hashes more data as like an update, and they still work with the new data. And if the new data is given goes against the data inside, then basically it will spit out a unique message. Well, at the moment, the BHB checker in front of you doesn't have a unique message, so it was just made to spit out garbage textual data. It's kind of like an homage to the missing number or missing no in the Pokemon glitch thing. So that just informs then the user that there was an invalid, something was invalid, while not letting go of that data. Similar to how like Bitcoin remembers all the different blocks. So for here, this like it can check to see if the UTXO is spent, valid or unspent. So that's the same thing as actual filters on Bitcoin. It does offline probabilistic checks using precinct data snapshots. That's slightly different. And then background operation for continuous blockchain monitoring. And that's also different. So this is basically like a lower end node for people who don't actually want to run a node. And this is 4 months old as right now. So this is fairly new. As like I did mention it. I did tell you, Now, what if I told you, though, I thought of this and made a working concept 3 months before Core 30 was released. Okay, so this came out 3 months before Core 30. And even though I probably started nearly 6 months before this release date, or whatever, I'm releasing this, it's potentially, I was working on this at the same time, like, filter techniques were being used for Core 30 and not. So we were probably all doing this at the same time. Like, legitimately, we were all probably doing this at the same time. And that's the important part to remember there is a lot of people are all trying to approach this in slightly different techniques for a similar output. And that's really important. Alright, so here is that link again, that QR. Let's go to the next one. Now, here is the release of Core 30. So it took them 3 more months to get this to not be so buggy. Like, if you go use mine, it's quite buggy. This one is not so buggy. I dropped mine sooner, not even knowing anything about Core 30, by the way, being in production at the time. I drop early always pretty much to help get random people to test, get other people to test, other hardware to test. That's my method. So if I had a more close testing approach like Core 30 did, I probably still wouldn't have had released the BC or the BHB checker, the Bitcoin hash-based checker that I released. I probably still wouldn't have released it yet. Like, I'd still be working on it because it's still buggy. While they have their setup, so like, I'm saying like, okay, what I'm saying is they got a much better working filter system. It took them a few more months to come up with it, and they were probably working on it longer. Like, there's probably a lot of more details here. But what I'm really actually trying to tell you is that, I'm going to be a little cliche, but I might not be an expert in hash filters, but I do have some personal work in hash filters, and I have a lot more work specifically with hashings. I've designed hashings myself, and I'm personally trying to get one funding to be published by the MDPI for, peer testing and all that. Now, what I'm really trying to say on top of all this is, let me be your filters tour guide simply because I play with this tech. Okay, simply because I play with the tech, and have been doing so. Like, I'm like a season or two in 100 seasons, and then I start doing like wild tour guides to show you my hunting grounds on the off season, so people would be less afraid of the nature, and the animals. Something similar to that. I'm trying to be your filter tour guide, so you'll be a little bit less scared of these filter techniques on chain. Please allow me to do this. Alright. So, let's actually get into Core 30. So, this is the release for Core 30. Sorry, I just was reading something. One of my notes I had something up. It was just like, it didn't make sense. It was funny to see. Alright, so, okay. Probably had it small this whole time. Okay. No, we can get further in. We can make that bigger. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Compatibility. Yeah, there it is. Bitcoin Core is supported and tested on operating systems using the Linux kernel 3.17 or higher. Holy sh... You can use a lot of different Linux kernels. Hell yeah. Mac OS 13 plus. And Windows 10 plus. So Windows 10, Windows 11. Bitcoin Core should also work on most Unix-like systems, but is not as frequently tested on them. This is not recommended to be used Bitcoin Core on unsupported systems. Notable changes. So, policy. The maximum number of potential executed legacy signatures operations in a single standard transaction is now limited to 2,500. Signature operations in all previous output scripts and all input scripts, as well as the P2SH redeem scripts, if there are any, are counted toward the limit. The new limit is assumed to not affect any known typically formed standard transactions. The change was done to prepare for a possible BIP54 in the future. I really hope they don't do the stupid quantum resistant stuff. Like, there was one I keep hearing people talking about like burning everything not in a quantum address. I hope they don't do that. I just hope they make it quantum resistant addresses and let people naturally switch over to it. But I don't actually know offhand what BIP54 is. I don't know what it is offhand. And keep in mind, the BIP that Knott's using to implement filters and stuff is BIP 150 something. So 54 is really quite old. Well, maybe not quite old. It's older. So data carrier size is limited to 100,000 by default, which effectively uncaps the limit, so to speak, because the maximum transaction size limit will hit first. Nice, right? It can be overridden, though, with this character size equals 83. which is a revert to prevent enforced from previous versions. It's basically just revert for previous versions. It has the multiple data carrier OP return outputs in a transaction are now permitted for relaying and mining. Data carriers limit applies to the aggressive size of the script pub keys across all such outputs in a transaction, not including the size itself. That last bit actually does mean quite a bit. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but the data carrier size limit applies to the aggregator size of the script pub key across the sub. That's actually really fucking good that it's not including itself when it does that, because then you would hit that limit way faster. The minimum block fee rate has been changed to not 1 Satoshi per VByte. It can still be changed using the configuration option. This option can be used by miners to set a minimum fee rate on packages added to block templates. Yeah, that's optional. So the default minimum, well, this part right here, the option can be used to miners to, like, you can still have fee-less block templates. It's just no one else is gonna mine it for you. All right, the default minimum relay fee rate and incremental relay fee rate have been changed to 0.1 Satoshi fee byte. They can still be changed using respective configuration options, but it's recommended to change both if you decide to do so. Other minimum fee rates, such as dust fee rate and the minimum return fee rate estimator, and all fee rates used by the wallet remain unchanged. The main pool minimum fee rate still changed in response to high volume. So the meme pool changes its fee rate based on volume. Note that unless these lower defaults are widely adopted across the network, transactions created with lower fee rates are not guaranteed to propagate or confirm. The wallet fee rates remain unchanged. Minimum fee rate must be changed before attempting to create transactions with lower fee rates using the wallet. P2P and network changes. Now, I'm not going to go through all this, but it should tell you there, okay, there's more changes here with the actual network and how we're connecting and stuff like that. Like this one right here, the max or Phalanx transaction option no longer has any effect since the orphanage no longer limits the number of unique transactions. Users should remove this configuration option if they were using it before, as the setting will cause errors in the future. It's no longer recognized. So there are new Bitcoin commands. There's external signing, IPC mining interface has been probably fixed. So how to install the changes, blah blah blah, indexes, logging, updating, blah 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 blah. So cool. Actually, a lot of stuff is really cool. So updated settings, max meme pool, Dcash startup, the Natman PM, NPN. So like little things, but this is the type of stuff you expect to see with having people working on it all the time. Okay. So all I really see is more allowances with the block data. That's really all I see. They're kind of grouping it all together in a lot of ways, which is how you're getting more allowances. But one of the things I do hate about modern BTC is the subset crap. In the code originally, coders were using subsats like a half, like the 0.1, or originally it was a 0.5 or a 0.1. But now they got the double knot, the point and double knot one, as a way to set a charge for free. So that way you could like charge an impossible to deduct amount of Bitcoin instead of a free or zero sat transaction. And it was more likely to be picked up by miners because like when you do it, because it's per VByte, you might actually end up at like 1 or 2 sats being paid. Like I used to do it for half a sat per VByte and end up paying about 7 sats per 7 sat transaction fees for a long time. And it was more likely, because that was more likely to be picked up by miners than a 0 byte, 0 sat. So this used to be a trick. Everyone said for years, well, like when we say it, like we would always say configure your node. Just configure your node. Use your minimums allowed in the node without going to 0. And that was one of the things that was allowed in the node was you could do like 0.5, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, things like that. And you basically was charging nothing, and you would then, like, you would totally be like mine your own transactions and set up your node to do that as well. But no one really wants to, not everybody wants or can actually do solo mine and solo node. So we need more people doing that, definitely, and that is growing thanks to things like BitX. But it just shows that, I'm just not happy with it. It just sucks. So, here we go. Here are a series of Bitcoin Core updates as official releases, and if we examine this for a few seconds, we'll see Bitcoin Core 28 and 29 are both uniquely being updated alongside Core 30. Meaning Core 30 isn't even being used amongst all the core Bitcoiners. And I say core Bitcoiners, I mean core-based Bitcoiner nodes. This has real meaning behind it, but we'll probably get into that in a bit more later. Just keep in mind, there are 3 separate Bitcoin Core releases being maintained separately within the cores group of Bitcoin. Your core-based Bitcoin, as I'm going to start calling it. Alright. Here is the release drop specifically for Core 28. Here's the notes. Let's see what's different, huh? So, Bitcoin Core is supported, extensively tested. Okay, same. Oh, this one goes all the way back to Linux, Windows 7. So that's kind of important. Okay, this goes back to Windows 7, Mac 11. So these are for older systems. Bitcoin Core should also work on most Unix systems. All right. So notable changes: mean important policy, block fee rate. We already thought. Yep. Relay mining transaction fee. Yep. Incremental relay fee has been changed. Stuff that's already been done in other ones. Does not enforce truck checks. Ooh. Do not apply whitelist permissions on Onion inbound. So, some real changes, in my opinion, but nothing to, it's just like operational changes, though. And that's still really important. The last one we looked at was mostly operational changes among the filter thing and some of the block change limits and stuff, which we'll also see a little bit in that here too. So, really, it's just a non-subsat setup recognizing the OG non-subs, so others running like subsat shouldn't see rule sat decline as long as their nodes are running Core 28. And I don't know about that last part, but this is basically adding in a lot of the subsat stuff into older nodes. This is for older devices, things like that. Okay. Nice to know. So now here is the Bitcoin 29 release notes. So this is the next one. We're going to do the same thing. This one's more newer systems. So it's got P2P changes, witnesses, mutations within the fill block. Check empty headers before calling a fill block. Do the trucks. It fixed something. Okay. So, like, I would say even smaller changes. But we're not seeing a couple of major changes, though. Like, I'm not seeing the block fee rate limit and other limits and stuff like that. The signature being excluded from itself on some stuff and the other things that we were looking at. So this is a majorly different form. Like, really, when you look at them, all three, Core 30, 29, 28. So Core 30, Core 28, Core 29. They are unique, and they all have a unique purpose. within Bitcoin, allowing for a different out-of-box experience within Bitcoin in 3 unique flavors. This is kind of like what we see with Linux distros, and such with that, like multiple forms of Ubuntu, Peppermint, and even BSD. There are multiple forms. So think of this as like a common old computer habit to have multiple forms and have old form backups of styles used by some, but are like just basically updated old versions. Pre-Core 20 probably will use, people who use pre-Core 20 will probably use Core 28. People who use anywhere between Core 20 to, Core 27, they're probably going to use Core 29. And anybody else, well, they're probably just going to use, well, actually, my note's mistaken. It's, if you go from Core 20 to Core 23, you're probably going to use Core 29. Then anything from 23 and up, you're probably just going to use Core 30, because the new ones is, again, it's a new updated version of 28 and 29, and a brand new Core 30. So, alright, okay. So these are just a lot of updates plus a brand new version. Cool. Here's knots. Woo! Now, just looking at it up front, it's not much different, right? Looks like this is pretty much all the same stuff, except slightly different. Alright, now this is what we would call Bitcoin knots. Alright, this is it right here. So, this is the Bitcoin knots node and wallet soft. And here we go, there's the stuff. So, like, when you're looking in here, development process and stuff, so, like, you can kind of see, like, even a lot of the core stuff is merging the knots. They just have, like, this is probably one of the first major differences they've ever had that I am aware of, at least. They might have had other ones, but this is the most major difference one. So here is their release for their most recent knots, 29.2. And it says, like, Bitcoin knots is supported on operating systems such as Linux kernel, Mac 13 plus, Windows 10 plus. It's not recommended to use it on things that are unsupported. Known bugs. Okay, this is a much. Okay, here's the difference. Known bugs. Various locations, including GUIs, transaction details alongside the V-size result, and many of the RPC results, transaction virtual sizes, may not account for unusually high number of signal ops, determined by the byte-size signal policy. The data carrier penalties, the data carrier costs. This could result in recording a lower virtual size than is actually used in the mean pool or mining purposes. Due to distribution of the shared Bitcoin transfix repository, this release still does not include updated translations, and Bitcoin knots may not be able to do so until or unless that is resolved. It's scary the way they say that. Build a translation kit. Okay. I know that's not that easy, but that is the actual way they should do it. Instead of resolving with Bitcoin Core, they should just have a translation unit. But this is when we get to one of the first major complications, right? Something simple like that, or what seems kind of simple, or has a simple way to fix it, it's not simple. So, notable changes. The Docker file has been added to source code release. Please read that document. There's a consensus change, so optimize the C block index work comparator and network changes, which, okay, cool. There's a GUI update, then wallet actual migration update, RPC update, so, okay, not a whole, okay, actually, quite a bit all throughout the whole thing got updated in different ways. And here they are. So, but I'm not noticing some of the same language is not being used, some of the same stuff it's not being used. it's different, right? I would say that it's even a mix. I would say this update is a mix between 27, 28, and 29 of Bitcoin Core. Okay, so really having multiple major nodes types. Oh my bad. So I was looking down so I can make this bigger for you guys, so you can really see what I'm trying to get you guys to see. So really just having different Bitcoin node types just increases decentralization possible. That's what's really going on. There was a dominance of 99.9% core nodes within miners, where there was a small unique nodes subset of really just old official Bitcoin soft, so it was actually considered part of core-based nodes. But now that there's 12% not node-based nodes running, this is a good thing. This will show that these two can exist without splitting the network. But why do people think the network will split? Because it did with BTC BCH, and because basically at the core of this problem, the only major difference between core 30 and not 29 is OP return handling, the substat fee mess setup, and some of the little handlings with that. As we saw, like they were saying, one of the major problems from all that, they said gets resolved, and then also stuff will not display correctly. That's really what that means, which is why I said you need a translation kit to translate whatever that is to something that means something that you can use. And among some transactional differences, also, good thing I had that there. Among also transactional differences, that's just the surface, okay? That's just there's almost nothing really there. That's just a surface level scratch of difference. Okay, it's like looking at two scratches and be like, one's left or one's right. Oh my gosh. Alright, so these can exist quite differently without breaking consensus. But the byte size, if they get too far different, the subset becomes deductible from your actual transaction, meaning additional decimal or more precision within the Bitcoin information. Well, then that could actually cause math issues, and that will cause a chain split. It's when maths don't maths. That's when stuff starts to split. Thank you, Trek with 2Ks, for giving me that phrase. I love it to death. He used to say this all the time. The math don't math. Math not be mathin', bro. And I say maths don't be maths don't maths, bro. Because I'm not going to steal his exact phrase. Alright. So, as long as the maths be mathin', then it's going to be fine. Now, if you'd like to download Bitcoin Core 30, here you go. Now, if you would like to to download Bitcoin Knots 29, well, here you go. Now, we're going to ask some questions. We're going to talk to AI a little bit here. I just wanted to give this a try. It kind of shows you how other people, like normal people, are probably looking at all of this, okay? So, I'm just trying to get a more common perspective from other people's perspectives that you watching may not have, and I definitely don't have. But now, if you're someone who's not into crypto and stuff, and you only heard what news said or something, these might be the perspectives you might have. So, because the reason why we're doing this, in my eyes, the only real difference between Knots and Core 30 is this parasocial type event where famous in Bitcoin persons wanted to make their own node, and that's fine. There have been parasocial events like this, like with Roger Ver, for example, right before the BCH BTC split. There was a big parasocial thing with Roger Ver for like 4 or 5, well, I would say 3 years before the split, so about 4 or 5 years grand total. And then Fake Toshi Fake Toshi number 1, he also did a parasocial thing right before the BSV BCH split. So let's really see what AI has to say. So I asked AI, why do people use Bitcoin Knots? It said, People use Bitcoin Knots because it offers stricter transaction filtering and additional features compared to Bitcoin Core, allowing users to reject what they consider spam transactions. Yeah, that actually probably is the biggest complaint. This appeals to those who want to maintain Bitcoin's identity as something they believe it is when it's really just how they make it. And once you realize Bitcoin is just however you use it, this last line doesn't mean anything. Alright. So then I went to Presearch AI and asked them the exact same question. I can actually give you a link for this one. Presearch rules. Alright, so Presearch AI says Bitcoin uses Bitcoin Knots for various reasons, including privacy, security, and the ability to make transactions without intermediaries. That's also why people use Bitcoin, right? Okay. Alright, I like it. So then I asked this AI, why do people use Bitcoin Core 30? Well, people use Bitcoin Core V30 for its enhanced features, including significant increase the OP data limit, which allows for larger amounts of non-financial data to be embedded in transactions. Again, that's the major difference here. That really is the only major difference. This update also includes various performance improvements and security enhancements, making it effective and a versatile option in the network. Now, again, this last line is in comparison to other Bitcoin Core versions before 28. That's very important to know. So then I asked Presearch AI the exact same question. Now again, I can give you a link for this one. And it says people use Bitcoin Core for its full node capabilities, enhanced security, privacy features, and to support Bitcoin network. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so this last line on this one, and to support Bitcoin network validating transactions and blocks, like that's just Bitcoin. That's just how Bitcoin works. So really, Presearch AI is just basically saying, oh, this is why people use Bitcoin. Because when you think about it, it's the difference between knots and 30 is surface level. And I really do mean that. So, oh wait, yeah, that's not going to work. I asked this AI, what are the original arguments used by Roger Ver before BCH? Roger Ver originally argued Bitcoin as a means of achieving economic freedom and separation of money from state control. Okay, yeah, that's Bitcoin. It actually is. He emphasized the importance of Bitcoin functioning as peer-to-peer cash, and the phrase probably should be important on that peer-to-peer cash. Some people look at that and they think that means something more than I anonymously hand somebody money. They can look at it and verify that is the amount of money they want for this whatever we're doing. And they don't have to know who I am, and I don't have to know who they are. We're both anonymous to this transaction, to each other, and to the money. Okay? That's what peer-to-peer cash means. And peer-to-peer digital cash literally just means doing it online. Bitcoin can be used offline. There is a way to do it non-digitally, so that's another reason why he hyper-focused on the phrase meant peer-to-peer cash. Alright, and this is for everyday transactions, is his belief. Peer-to-peer cash for everyday transactions. There are people out there that use Bitcoin for everyday transactions. They use it not in the same way as other people because it doesn't work that well that way, but they use like coin purses and things like that with different vendors, so that way they can drop money into account between the two of them and then spend that money after it's been fully verified on the fly. He was also advocating for larger block sizes to accommodate more transactions and lower fees, which when you say the fee is based on the block size or the data size, and we have a larger block that allows for a larger fee, allows for, key word, which he believed these were essential to Bitcoin's broader adoption. Turned out there were other ways to get lower fees. We have also talked about this before. We have had other episodes about this, so I'm going to get into it here. We're going to go and ask Presearch AI the exact same question. Roger Ver originally argued BCH based on the need for faster transaction times, lower fees, and the belief that BTC was becoming too centralized and not fulfilling original version as the peer-to-peer electronic cash system. He emphasized on the importance of scalability and the ability to handle more transactions on the blockchain. That's actually more accurate to what he was saying. Dead honest. Dead honest. This is more accurate to what he was saying. This is what he was saying. This really was what Roger Ver was saying. Roger Ver argued that we needed to lower the transaction times, lower the fees, and Bitcoin was too centralized and had separated from the original vision, right? That's why eventually they did Bitcoin Satoshi vision as a thing for fake Toshi number 1. So Roger Ver then was really emphasizing the importance of scaling and being able to put more transactions on the chain. And like to this point, Bitcoin Cash has more Bitcoin Cash. It has more Bitcoin out than Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash also has more blocks. But like, it can be used for daily uses and stuff. It really can. I think it's got a more stable price value point too. So like, kind of did a lot of that. It just, the value of that Bitcoin Cash isn't as great. It has not gone up as great, slightly because of all that. And that's one of those big arguments, right? That's one of the previous parasocial things, and that is really what we're getting into, isn't it? That's what a lot of this is really about. The parasocial about everything that we're looking at here is simply exactly what we're talking about. Parasocial. This is not the thing you thought it was. Okay. Alright. So I wasn't pulling down my notes because my notes don't have anything for those. Alright. Literally, this is another parasocial event in Bitcoin. If both node groups, Knots and Core, stay civil about their node determinations, then I think this will soon lead the way to a multi-Bitcoin internally within the same chain to allow various forms of Bitcoin nodes running, various forms of Bitcoin handling, various forms of Bitcoin data without splitting the chain. This is good, and a start to a more flexible Bitcoin. However, if the parasocial gets too defensive on any one side, this could lead a split, more tribalism within the crypto community, especially the Bitcoin community. And that's the fear. This could actually cause more problems. Like BCH, BTC caused more tribalism. And as odd as it is, I think the BSV, BCH split caused more tribalism in general, but less tribalism between BTC and BCH. Like, dead serious, it's more like, oh, we got a more common enemy, man. And I like you, I don't like you, but we can kind of agree to disagree. And that's the reality of a lot of this. As, yeah, it is parasocial. I ain't gonna say it any other way. Truth be truth, what it be. Alright. Let me get situated. Because that's today's episode, everybody. I do want to appreciate and thank you all for coming in and sharing this experience with me. I hope to have more things set up and situated for you guys next week and get all this situated. And hopefully I'll get my character model running a little bit better. Believe it or not, I am running the character model off of a single webcam using CPU integrated graphics chip set. So GNU. Yeah, that's actually kind of cool, right? Anyways, we're doing the outro. We'll see you guys later. Everybody enjoy it.
Yo, did you think you know? Did you think you hold? Did you think something new? That's the goal, to see from a new degree and get the change your mind needs to find something new. Life suddenly is easy for many, but when a wall appears, sometimes up is all you see. So let 3D guide to the side, yo, where there's a door though. Just be careful on your way out, for the first step is a do-see-do. A little bit Linus with something different, it's almost like he's something else. And regardless of maybe, perhaps it was that missing piece you was needing. Maybe it was that simple message you was searching. Definitely it's just in different time for defraying our mental mind state, separating us from our own mental mind tank. Boom goes the blast of thought. Boom goes the last spark with part. Boom goes the mental mind tank. Don't your perspective hit on the way out. Don't let your directive stop you when you doubt. Don't let the dire detection stop you from being getting excited. So the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate so we can line up the hash rate. Let me surmise the time to make a rate and reduce the fakes while we mine our major bets. Crypto technology like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D changes perspectives. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a new role of perspective. Joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Thank you for